Well, hello, hello. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Progressively Yours Health and Wellness Podcast. I'm Imani,
I'm Bernard.
and together we are Sankofa Institute for Wellness. And we have a wonderful, wonderful show and a guest who is a dear, dear friend of ours. And we look forward to introducing her. It's going to be really an amazing show. But anyway, we'd like to welcome everyone, all of our listeners and viewers. And I still apologize about the Facebook thing. There's something going on with Facebook and the company that we use for streaming our shows. So hopefully, folks will be able to get in through the event, our Facebook event page. And so before we move forward, we're going to have Bernard open us up with a little spiritual centering exercise.
Thank
Ready?
you. I am ready.
All right.
We look forward to this opportunity. This is part of our ritual and tradition at the beginning of our show. You are welcome to participate or not participate. It's time for us to center down. I refer to it as the meditative minute. So, wherever you are, I'd like to invite you to close your eyes for a moment and just allow yourself to be comfortable and begin breathing in and out through your nose, or if you like, in through your nose, slightly part lips and out through your mouth, with your out breath a little longer than your in breath. Do that for about 3 or 4 times as we center down. And in the words of Howard Thurman, how good it is to center down, to sit by and watch one's life pass by. And therefore, here we are, centering down in this moment. The striking of the ting shawls clears the energetic space. The spiritual vibrations are cleared out so that the ancestors who have granted us permission to move forward and the cloud of witnesses can protect the four corners of our space so that all of the energies that you are to receive for the transformation of your life can be present. And those forces that we do not wish to visit our space cannot enter. It is our time. These words from Thich Nhat Hanh, your true home. And I thought about this reading as we approach July 4th. And I always get the question, what are you going to do for the 4th? What's your plans? What are you up to? And I turned to this and it found my heart. Hear these words. Number 297, he writes, have a lazy day. Have a lazy day. Try to spend a day doing nothing. We call that a lazy day. Although many of us who are used to running around from this to that, a lazy day is actually very hard work. It's not so easy just to be. If you can be happy, relaxed, and smiling when you're not doing something, you're quite strong. Doing nothing brings about quality of being. Doing nothing brings about quality of being, which is very important, he writes. So doing nothing is actually something. Please write that down and display it in your home. Doing nothing is something. Have a lazy day. Ashe. Namaste.
Namaste.
Amen.
Amen.
It is for the ancestors.
I love that. I heard a comedian recently saying that, when you ask children, what did you do today? And they're all excited because they had 10 different things that they did, sports and running around and different activities and music, and you ask an adult, so what did you do today? Nothing. And they're like smiling and they're so happy because they did nothing. They just took a moment to just be. And one of my most special times in life was a 3-day silent meditation.
Wow.
It was amazing. I mean, it was life changing. And we found that at the end of the 3 days, the folks who were guiding us, they said, "Okay, we're done. You can talk now." And nobody wanted to talk. It was like, what is there to talk about? We realized how much over talking we do about many things that are not so important. So I think it's a great idea to encourage people to have a time when they do, and when you're in that space, that's when you can receive, from God, the universe, the ancestors. I mean, it's just such a beautiful time when you're silent and you're open to receiving.
Yes.
So with that, I want to let me.
Nice story. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, you're welcome. Just a couple of announcements. We encourage people to subscribe to our Progressively Yours Health and Wellness YouTube channel. Progressively Yours Health AN 6600. How that came up as a code, I don't know. But that's where the numbers really count on YouTube. So our numbers are growing and we're really excited about that. So please subscribe to our YouTube channel. And also, if you do that, you'll always get the notices about the shows, so you don't have to wait for links because the links are different every week. Also, we've spoken about the red light therapy bed that we have, and we are truly excited about that, and people are giving us really good feedback about how it is impacting them, kind of mind, body, and spirit. And most of the things that we do are about helping the body to heal itself, which the bed certainly does. It's not doing anything really magical. It is getting in there and impacting your mitochondria and creating more ATP energy for the body to really be on top of its game. But I mean, it feels like nothing because you're just laying there for like 12 minutes, 13 minutes, and people are coming back and telling their friends. So we encourage you, if you're in the Atlanta area or nearby, it's definitely worth the trip to come up to Swanee. You can always call 470-861-7266, which is a different number than what's on the screen, to make an appointment. That's 470-861-7266. Thank you, yes. Janet. And we also encourage people, another thing we're finding that's helping people to heal naturally is a marine phytoplankton product that we had Lewis Wharton on the show, and he explained this marine phytoplankton, which is the food of the fish and the whales and sea life, and it's very, very powerful for your dog's barking. It's very powerful for helping the body to heal itself. Also, there's a new company that is allowing businesses to list, sort of like Groupon, except they don't charge the businesses. So we were real excited to find out about that. It is absolutely free for businesses. And so we signed up, and they had a long, weird name for me, and they just reduced it to partner.passpass.com/Imani. Oh, it's on the screen. Thank you, Janet. You're so wonderful. And people can also sign up as affiliates to share the word. But I believe they're launching like on the 11th of this month. So they're encouraging businesses to sign up because it's absolutely free for them. And all they're asking is that you have some type of deal of the week, of the day, and you can change that deal whenever you want to. There's no pressure. Nobody really cares what it is that you're doing. So we listed the red light bed at a huge discount for a first try. And so we have that listed on the site called Pass. So check it out. Let me see if there's anything else before I introduce my dear friend. No, I think we are there. Woo, woo. All right. So again, we are delighted to have our dear friend, Professor Jamela Franklin. Professor Franklin is an award-winning author, radio talk show host, certified aromatherapist, certified Reiki Master-Practitioner and Teacher, certified Metaphysician and holistic life coach. She embodies a profound dedication to empowering individuals on spiritual, emotional, mental, physical, and financial levels through her holistic approach. Based in the greater Atlanta, Georgia area. Can you get the doggy, please?
She's barking. She's your dog.
That's not no, that's your dog barking. That's not my dog barking.
She's barking. She's yours.
Oh, okay. I get it.
Yeah.
Stop barking, Bella. Okay. All right. Based in the greater Atlanta, Georgia area, her holistic practice seamlessly integrates her solid educational background, Harvard grad, and a number of other wonderful places, and her extensive training in psychotherapy, aromatherapy, Reiki, reflexology, energy medicine, quantum physics, holistic life coaching. Dang, Jamela, you do it all. Yeah. Metaphysics, emotional release, and stress management. As an accomplished author, Professor Franklin has received numerous awards for her literary works and has been a distinguished guest presenter at the Morehouse School of Medicine retreats since 2021. Additionally, she is the founder and CEO of Oyinde Enterprises, a dynamic holistic wellness company that delivers innovative therapeutic approaches and aromatherapy products, earning her multiple accolades. Woo! Come on, Jamela, come join us up on the stage,
Come
please.
on, Jamela.
Hey,
Professor.
There she is.
Hey, Jamela.
Greetings. How are you?
Greetings. How are you?
Great. I'm so honored to be with you, two wonderful, wonderful soul beings. Yeah.
Thank you.
And we're so grateful that you have blessed us with your presence and your beauty. Mm-hmm. Thank you for being with us tonight. Yeah, so we're looking forward to the opportunity of you sharing your gifts and ideas and visions for our audience and with us. And before we begin, we'd like for you to share with us and with the audience about who are you when you think about your life's journey during the period from birth to age 12. What story or stories come to mind that would tell us just a little bit about who you are?
Okay. I like that. That's very interesting. No one has asked me that before in terms of interviewing. That's very novel and unique. First of all, I have known my sister friend Imani for over 20 years, and she and my late husband were like brother and sister. He used to tease her a lot. But anyway,
I miss Fred.
Yeah, Fred, who is now an ancestor.
Yes.
Yeah. So from 0 up to 12, I'm from Memphis, Tennessee originally. The child of Katie Mae Franklin and Thomas Eccles, and my mother was a domestic worker who had a vision for me that I would do more than she had done in terms of her life. She was originally from Mississippi, I'm trying to remember the little town, small town in Mississippi. So she decided that she wanted to come to Memphis to have a better life for herself. And then I was born in Memphis years after she made the decision to come. But she was a visionary. She was a visionary. She worked for Caucasian families, but she had the vision that her daughter would do as much, if not more, than their children did. So she told me I was always going to college, even though she didn't really know what college was. She just knew that that was something that would lead to a better life than she had had.
Mm-hmm.
So I just knew from the age of 5 that I was going to college. I had no idea what it really meant. I just knew that I was going. She also had a vision for me in terms of being a nurse. And I told my mom, I didn't like the sight of blood when I was 5. I paid the price for that. She was like, yeah. She thanked me, right? And I was like, well, I'm still not a nurse. I said, that's her vision in my head.
Mm-hmm.
So
close, but not, yeah.
yeah, I wasn't cutting on people. I didn't even like biology in high school, so I knew that was not my profession to be. But I knew that I was here to help people, to be of service, because as of the age of 5 to 6 and 7, I have clear, vivid memories of my sitting on our sofa and teaching the neighborhood children how to read.
Wow.
That's
I used to bring them over and teach them how to read and to empower them. I was always like that, always trying to help others, because I only had one sibling on my mother's side, my brother, who was 20 years older than I, and we didn't grow up together. So the neighborhood children became my siblings, some of them, not all of them, but some of them. So I just loved reading. I loved reading. I loved going into fantasy world. I remember as a child having these vivid imaginative kinds of daydreams where I would look at my mother's glass jewelry, fake diamonds back then. I couldn't forget the real diamonds and shit, fake diamonds. But I would look in there and I could see another world. I could see people in another dimension moving. And I would tell my mom, I said, I could see people on another, in this little fake crystal here. So I was fascinated by that. I was never afraid of it. And then when my grandmother transitioned, with whom I was very, very close, my grandmother lived in Mississippi. And I remember just as vividly as if it were yesterday. When she transitioned, I wasn't there physically. I was in Memphis, but I saw two angels take her spirit out of her body. I saw it. And I told my mom, and so she dismissed it, like the ramblings of a little kid. So I said, no, Ma, I really saw that. I saw them lift her up, and I saw her going up through the ceiling. My grandmother and I, in terms of soul connections, were very close because she transitioned when I was 5. But I was closer to her spiritually than I was my mom. I'm more like my grandmother. So I loved my grandmother, and I loved my mom too. But my mother was the type person, and she got this from her mother. She was very focused. Because of her, I was able to go to these schools, but that's beyond 12 years of age. And so when I became older, beyond the age of 5, I was just very inquisitive. I knew that I was going to leave Memphis. I didn't know how. I just thought that Memphis was very small for me, Memphis, Tennessee. And I knew that I was going to travel. I just knew that in my soul and in my heart. And I became very interested in reading certain kinds of books, like Hitler's Mein Kampf. I'm in the 6th grade and I was reading that book. And because I was fascinated by his mind. I was like, how could someone, think
like that?
Yeah, I was fascinated by his mind. No one, my mother didn't even know who Hitler was or anything about him. But I was fascinated by that. And all my teachers really became like surrogate mothers because I was very, very inquisitive. And I would do things that showed I was not the ordinary child. I didn't see myself as being special. But I just felt that the world in Memphis was really small. When I was in school, I would finish my assignments in class before everyone, and I would talk. I'm like, come on, finish your assignment, because I wanted to play and talk because I didn't have siblings at home. And so I would make up, give you an example, like if we were having a spelling test, I would just make up words for me to spell after I had finished the traditional spelling test the teacher was giving, because I was bored. Because my mother wasn't a teacher, they didn't promote me. I really should have skipped a couple of grades, right? But they didn't do that because she wasn't part of the bourgeoisie. So,
Mm-hmm.
they had a caste system. And so
Mm-hmm.
she wasn't a teacher. She wasn't the wife of a minister. So we didn't fit. And so I stayed in the grade that I was assigned, but I was bored. So I talked and got U's in conduct, A's in terms of coursework,
Mm-hmm.
but U's. So I was just very inquisitive, very talkative, very um, interested in doing things that were not normal for people in Memphis. Anything that was different, I was interested in investigating and pursuing. But interestingly enough, I had a normal childhood. I skipped rope, I played jacks, I ran, I did all the childhood things.
Mm-hmm.
So I was a nerd, but not a nerd. I danced, I formed a dance troupe, I did all of that. So
Yeah.
I had a kind of balanced life.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Well, thank you.
Wow. So,
Beautiful.
yeah, so tell us a little bit about your journey um, as a healer. I mean, you're definitely part of what I consider the natural healing community with the Reiki and the other things that you do, the aromatherapy and all of the holistic approach things that you do. Tell us a little bit about how you got there, because that's clearly part of how we overlapped. We met with, from mutual friends, and we realized that we both liked, we were both very much interested in natural health and wellness. So tell us a little bit about that journey.
Well, I became very interested in things that were of African origin. So I know that in a past life, I was from the continent, because everything that dealt with the continent, I was drawn to just naturally. So
Mm,
I became interested when I went to college. Well, I changed my name, first of all, because the name that I had growing up, I don't repeat. It's very European. And people will ask me, well, what was your name? I said, if I wanted you to know it, I would have changed it, right? Why would I tell you? I'm not going to tell you that. So it was just a natural affinity. Starting in high school, I was part of the Black Awareness Club in high school,
mm-hmm.
and baby Black Panther, anything that was dealing with us culturally, I was drawn into. So when I got to college, that expanded because I went to Cornell, and Cornell had the first African American Studies program in the country. So I went there, and then I was drawn to aromatherapy after college, really, when I moved to Boston. But I was drawn to anything that was Afrocentric. It was just a natural affinity for anything that was like that. And I became interested in the diets of the people who went to Cornell. A lot of the people there were from New York or from the East Coast.
Mm-hmm.
Here I am, this Southern girl, who grew up in Memphis, people eating pork and all that other kind of stuff. Even though I wasn't really still interested in eating a lot of the Southern cuisine because it was making me ill. It was giving me headaches, all the pork.
Mm-hmm.
But the people there were in like a Muslim phase. So they were not eating anything that was pork.
Okay.
They had a different kind of diet, and I was fascinated by that. So I said, oh, wow, okay. Then I eat pork. And they weren't vegetarian, though. My classmates were vegetarian, but they had definitely cut out the pork. And I was in alignment with where I was going, because the pork was giving me, like I said, headaches when I would eat it. And I was feeling dizzy. So I was giving up pork even before I left Memphis. I said, it's not working for me. So then I started studying at Cornell, everything that was African oriented, Afrocentric or whatever. I studied more about it. And I learned that a lot of the things that people were attributing to the Far East, like to Asian countries, were really from the continent of Africa.
Mm-hmm.
And so at Cornell, I got a very strong Afrocentric African base, so that I could talk about our history, not from a rhetorical perspective, because a lot of people were just talking rhetorically, but they couldn't back it up with facts.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to learn the history and the culture and the literature So I expanded on that and moved over into the health arena. So when I talk to people, and the health part really came about, interestingly enough, in a predominantly white city, which was Boston. After I left Cornell, I went to Boston, and I went to Harvard Graduate School of Education, and then I went to Lesley University School of Psychology. So I got 2 masters there. But so a friend of mine was really exploring more of the holistic things in Boston. I said, okay, let me look into it. It has to be Afrocentric. That was big. So I looked into reflexology, which comes from Egypt, even though they try to give Asia credit. No, it comes from Egypt. It comes from Northern Africa.
And that's the feet, right? Where the everything on the bottom of the feet.
The meridians, yeah, the hands, feet, and ears.
Mm-hmm.
Even when you go into some of the tombs in Egypt, you see some of the peoples, some of the hieroglyphics with people working on people's feet. It predates a lot of the things that you know about. So it's very ancient.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it started in Egypt. But it's, like I said, it's recorded on the walls where the workers were working on the feet of the pharaohs and the people who were the aristocrats. So I was very interested. I said, okay, how is this going to help the body? And then I found out that you have meridians here in your hands and in your feet. All 5 of these meridians are connected along this line all the way down to your toes.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the things that people are doing in the West are primitive. A lot of the things that come from the continent of Africa are very, very advanced. And what people are now realizing is that those customs were far more advanced than what people are doing today, because they could diagnose you without cutting you. That's very, very advanced.
Yeah.
Through reflexology, I can tell was off. If there's a sore point along one of those meridians, and something in your finger, like underneath your fingers and underneath your toes, this is connected to your eyes. So if you're having sinus problems, I tell people just to take this thumb and go underneath each of the fingers. And if it's sore, if it's tender, it means that you have some congestion in that area. So go underneath each one of the fingers, the base of the fingers, as well as the base of your toes. And you can really feel it in your toes, underneath the base of the toes. And what will happen is that if you have congestion, you would tend to drain. So you don't even have to take medicines for that.
Right.
So the body is showing you that it's clogged and it's blocked. So I said, well, that's interesting. People don't have to go in to have anything done that's invasive. All they have to do is understand how the body works. So I studied reflexology after I had gotten my degrees. And then I said, wow, okay. And then I found out about aromatherapy, which came from Egypt as well. And I said, okay. And I found that the pharaohs, again, were the ones who had the privilege of being worked on using aromatherapy. And everything in your house is based primarily on scent. Deodorants, air fresheners, hair products, and all of that. Anything that's scented is based on aromatherapy. And what we've done now is we have taken the natural version of it, and people have chemicalized it. They put chemicals in it. So I tell people, anything with the scent is based in the original version of aromatherapy. And again, people from the Asian culture get credit for that. I said, it didn't begin there. It's in Egypt.
Egypt.
Aromatherapy and reflexology started in Egypt. So I was really impressed, because remember now I have this affinity for anything that's Afrocentric. I'm just normally just I gravitate towards it.
Drawn to it.
Yeah, it draws me in. I learned more because I'm not going to show anyone something that I haven't tried on myself.
Right.
So we're working on aromatherapy as well as reflexology, and I saw the results. People were experiencing healings, because the body will heal itself if we know what to do. And it was dealing with the internal organs, because I can touch something in your hands and you can feel it inside your body. Everything is connected. And with aromatherapy, I found that it worked on a spirit, mind, and body. If you're feeling very depressed, or you don't have to take meds. All you have to do is have lavender in your house, or my blend, Peace Be Still, and just breathe it in, and it shifts you.
Mm-hmm.
Working on the olfactory nerves, going up to the brain, and then what it's doing is it's just releasing those chemicals in the brain that say pleasure. And your brain cannot hold on to two things at the same time. It cannot hold on to emotional pain, physical pain, and pleasure. It can't. So it's going to release that which serves it the best. So when you're doing aromatherapy, it's going to release depression.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be, my blend would do that. It will release depression, anxiety, panic attacks. Whatever is going on in your body is going to let it go.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have to think it through. All you have to do is just breathe it, and it just releases and relaxes. So that's how I got into the some of the healing modalities.
Right.
And then
So,
I finished up here.
mm-hmm. So the topic that you chose to speak about is healing ancestral trauma.
Yeah.
I really want you to talk about that because
Yeah.
we've kind of been building up the story from who you are and what you were attracted to and the African callings to you, and as well as the herbal and the natural treatment. So
Yeah.
take us to the ancestors and what happened and why healing is even needed.
Well, I say that everyone who's melanated is suffering from post-traumatic slave disorder.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
That's the first thing.
Right.
And people who are not melanated are suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. Everyone is off balance
Mm-hmm.
in this country and in the world. And the matrix keeps you that way. It keeps you off-centered, right? If you're looking at the news, looking at the elections and whatever, people are all wired up. And that's by design to keep you off-centered.
Mm-hmm.
So with the ancestral part, for people, I've not had this opportunity. I think you and Bernard have had this opportunity. You might need to go to Ghana to the port of no return.
Yeah.
But he went to Ghana. I haven't been to Ghana yet.
You haven't been to Ghana yet?
No.
Well, everyone who goes can feel the ancestors. They
Mm.
can feel the pain. There isn't one person who's gone who's not been transformed by that experience.
Right.
So I tell people that the ancestors are there. We've been so I hate to use the word, but we've been brainwashed as people of African ancestry to say that honoring our ancestors is devil worship and is hoodoo and is against God and whatever. But look at this. You pick up a dollar bill, and those are the ancestors of Caucasians.
Mm-hmm.
You go to any of the monuments down in D.C., those are tributes to the ancestors of Caucasians.
Mm-hmm.
And their religions, you see in Catholicism, you see the ancestors, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in Asian culture, when you go to their shops, their nail shops, they have like a little altar.
Yes.
Ancestors, they have it in the corner. Everyone is given permission to honor and recognize the ancestors except us. And we bought the lie. So what happens is that because we don't call on the ancestors, they can't help you.
Right.
And then everybody, some people now have really gotten into this ancestral altar thing. So what people do is they take things and make them into fads, right?
Mm-hmm.
Really understanding the history behind all of that. And I tell people, look, because I've been dealing with spirits and things like that all my life. I mean, because I could see as a child.
Mm-hmm.
But that, if Aunt Bessie was crazy in this life, she's crazy on the other side. You don't want her on your altar because she's causing havoc, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Not healed. I tell
Mm-hmm.
people, and people don't understand that. Well, they have all those pictures on their altar. It's like, do you know those? Do you know?
You know them.
Do you know if they were in pain or had some problems? Because if they did, you're bringing them into your house, and then
Right.
if you
Wow.
put them in your bedroom, they're watching you in your intimate moments. I said, you don't have your ancestors. Do
Ooh.
not have your altar in your bedroom. Do not have your altar in your bathroom. Any
Right.
place that's
It's private.
sacred and private, don't have them there because they're watching you. Let me give you an example. When I was living in the condo apartment, before I moved to the house in College Park, and now I'm in Covington. I had my mom on an altar, and I had her next to Fred, right? So she was talking to me. She's like, I don't want to be on here. I don't want to be next to her. I want to be by myself. And she would fall off the altar to her picture. Okay. I said, get a grip. Get a grip.
Get a grip, Ma.
You're going to be up here. But I mean, I could hear her and she would fall off. So I'm in touch with all that. So with ancestral healing, if they had pain here, and most of our ancestors did,
right,
they took that pain with them. People think, oh, they died and they're okay. No, baby, they're not. That's the reason why you have some visitation sometimes in your house, because they're asking you to be the portal to heal them. That's and right. What my work is now is that's what I do. I combine I have a system called Alamaj 1 and Alamaj 2. That's my name backwards. Jamela is spelled backwards. So what happens is that I've combined this system from the emotion code, and I've taken it to another level. It's not even an emotion code, right? You wouldn't even recognize it, except that I use his base. And his book is my base. He has 60 different emotions. And so what I do is I use my pendulum. So I do it in person and via Zoom. And I ask my pendulum, I can use you as a pendulum, but I ask my pendulum because people get into their heads. And I'm a therapist, so I know you're getting in your head and you're forcing your body to give me an answer. Because like if you put your hand out like this in front of you, in front of your diaphragm, and if you move towards it, it means a yes. If you move backwards, it means a no. So when I'm asking the body, are you experiencing trauma? And a lot of people want to be on top of their game, like, oh, no, I don't have any trauma. I'm evolved. So if I use the body, they're going to force the body to go backwards. But with my pendulum is not going to lie. Because if I ask my pendulum, it's going to be yes or no.
Right.
And if these people are like, oh, I said, no, you can't lie, because the pendulum is connected to the ancestors, it's connected to spirit, it's connected to the angels, and it's going to give me the correct answer. So when I test people about the ancestral healing, it usually gives me an answer. Then I'll ask, okay, is this person experiencing anxiety in his or her hidden heart wall? The hidden heart wall are emotions that you're not in touch with. You know, you suppress them, or you didn't even know that you had them. Right. The heart wall are emotions that you are aware that you have, but you don't know how to really get rid of them. And then the top layer are your emotions that you're aware of, but you're like, oh, okay, that's just who I am, and you don't do anything about it. With the pendulum, with the ancestral thing, I would ask, okay, is Imani experiencing trauma, ancestral trauma? And let's say it says yes. The pendulum goes back and forth. Let's say it's Bernard experiencing emotional trauma from the ancestors. Let's say it says yes, goes back and forth. Then I would ask, okay, then I would get very specific. Because there are 30 emotions in column A and 30 emotions in column B, and they don't duplicate each other. So I would ask, is Imani experiencing, let's say, being overwhelmed? And if it says yes, then I would ask, is this connected to the ancestors? Then if it says yes, then I would say, okay, how far back does it go? 1 generation, 5 generations, 10 generations, or is it in the mother's womb? Did she experience it in the mother's womb? Then I would ask, so if it's in the mother's womb, I would ask first trimester, second trimester, third trimester.
You get real specific.
The system that spirit has given me that goes beyond the emotion code is very, very deep. I mean, to the year. I can tell you the year. Wow. So it tells me. Then I will ask, okay, 5 generations, 10 generations, 20 generations. So then it would tell me, say for instance, if it says 10 generations, right? In this system, because we didn't live that long, 1 generation equals 23 years.
Okay.
So 2 generations would be 230 years. So I subtract 230 from the year 2024. That's the year we're in now. And that would tell me when it started with your ancestors. But even before then, I ask, is it on the mother's side or is it on the father's side?
Mm.
And then I ask if you're having it, because a lot of people are having emotions that are not theirs,
Right.
energetic DNA. And
That's what I was going to ask you about, because we often talk about the fact that we're carrying DNA from our ancestors. So the things that are impacting them many times are impacting us, and we're like, I don't know where this came from. I don't know why people touching my face or my neck, or what does that come from? Definitely somewhere in the past.
I had that experience a few weeks ago. Imani and I went down to Orlando. My aunt, have three aunts remaining of the 7 children, and my middle aunt, who was 83, wanted to gather the family together of her father and mother. My mother was the eldest, I should say, child in the family. I'm the oldest male grandchild of the next generation. Even though I didn't grow up with my cousins, I was given up in adoption, and I was a secret for a very long time. And they lied to me. They said, "You're a cousin," and so I believed that until early adolescence. So my aunt always had, and I'm named for her. She's Bernice, I'm Bernard, and she's always loved me and kind of adored me, and really wanted me to step up to be the leader of the King Men. And I was telling him, I said, "Man, I've never really felt in. I know that they love me, but there's something in my spirit that I don't feel like I'm in." And so we were there, and she was doing the history of my great grandfather Jimmy King, and he was nearly killed by the Klan. The eldest cousin Cheryl, who's a year older than me, talked about when she was born, my grandfather, loved her, adored her. She was the daughter of my Uncle Charlie. When my mother became pregnant to my dad, he was married to someone else. So my grandfather sent her to New York so that she wouldn't shame the name, and she wouldn't lose her job as a teacher. Now I'm standing there when Sherry is telling her part. I'm thinking, well, that's not my story. What do I want to share tonight? So I tell some of the story, but here's what happened. I'm standing there, and I had my personal rain cloud. I broke out in so much sweat. It was beating on my head, in my face, in my eyes, and I didn't know where it was coming from. And my aunt was close to me. She was looking up at me as like, "Is Bernard all right? Is he all right?" I was somewhat congested, but it was more than just the congestion. And I realized later on this ancestral healing track that, in some ways, I came through this family. I represent reconciliation. I carried shame for so long. I was a secret. I was a lie, and I had to break through all of that in the immediate family, but in the distant generational. And I'd be interested, how many years back Dr. Mark has helped me a little with that, with the petri dish. We looked at some of the diagrams in the dish. So to your point, that part of the story just kind of recently happened to me, and you're absolutely spot on in terms of how we carry those spirits within us, and they impact us. And it doesn't matter what we know intellectually, right? This is DNA and deeply in our cells that we are having to transform and heal it from. And so thank you for, as you're sharing with us.
That's very powerful, Bernard. And the system that I use that was given to me, and no one knows the system because I haven't trained anyone in it, is that I've taken bits and pieces from different things, like I said, from Dr. Bradley Cooper with the emotion code, but he can't say that I'm using the emotion code because I'm really not. I'm using his book, but what I do is way beyond what he's doing. And so it pinpoints what it is. So say, for instance, if you have anxiety and you don't know how and why you have it, this tells you which side of the family it came from. The mother's side, the father's side. Because then I would ask, okay, is it the mother's mother or is it the mother's father? It gets more specific. And then I ask, like I said, 5 generations, 10 generations, and the pendulum would just tell me, say, yes. And then if I say maybe 15 generations, it'll go like this, maybe no. I never know. I never know because I'm not manipulating it. It's spirit, your ancestors, they're telling. And then I take that, like I said, each generation is 23 years. And so if it's 10 generations, it means it goes back within your family line 230 years.
30 years, wow.
And so then I subtract 230 from 2024, and that gives me the specific year.
Wow.
Then what I do is I start releasing it because you're the portal. So if it's 10 generations, it means 10 generations of grandmothers or whatever. Those 10 grandmothers are there in that room as I'm working on you. They're present.
Wow.
Okay. So, and they have selected you to be the portal to heal the family. So it starts like this. It starts with you. Then it goes to all your siblings like this. Then it goes back to those ancestors, and then it goes forward into your children, your grandchildren. So as they say in the Christian church, generational curses, it stops.
Right.
And it's not intellectual. And what I do is I use, and this is part of his system too, I use a refrigerator magnet to pull it out of you. Because I'm not doing any talking. I do very little talking. It's not a cognitive thing because I'm trained as a therapist. So I'm not doing behavior modification, none of that. I'm just swiping it. And if you're not in front of me, I'm acting as your proxy because we're all connected. We're just all one part of this one great quantum energy field. We think we're different because of these vessels that we have, but we're not. So I can act as your proxy and put my hand, 3 fingers, that's a magnet to pull it out, or a refrigerator magnet. And people I love skeptics. And I love to work with men who are skeptics, right? Because they're like, oh my God, I've had grown men cry because I'm not telling you anything and you're feeling it. And people sometimes are seeing. I have one person who, when one sister had this experience, she went all the way back to Nigeria. And she spoke fluent Yoruba. She's never been to Nigeria.
What?
She's never been to Nigeria. She doesn't have anyone that she knows in her family who's been to Nigeria. She went into a trance. She did this, and she was gone, and they came through. I've had several people do that. Yeah, several.
Wow.
Yeah, because what they're doing, you're giving them permission to show up. So when you give them permission, that anxiety that you are experiencing, it's not yours. It belonged to them. Because of the slave passage and all of that, it belonged to them, and they were trapped with it, and they died with it. That's the reason why people are having, like I said, visitations. And I tell people, the visitations are their souls asking you to help them get into the light to heal. They're not there to try to scare you, but because of Hollywood, and because we've been so programmed to go to work against ourselves and to hate ourselves, we don't understand what the ancestors are here to do to and for us, right? So they're trying to communicate, and we have this brainwashed barrier where they can't get through. So we're doing things that are unnecessary. We're doing patterns and things that are unnecessary. We're walking into traps and all those other things. That's the reason why I tell my Shiro is Harriet Tubman. Harriet Tubman had that vision from God. She went with it. She didn't question it. The ancestors, she went straight with it. They never caught her. She was never killed. And with all the men who've been our heroes, except for Marcus Garvey and Mandela, they've killed all of our male heroes.
Mm.
The women, they haven't, because they tap into the intuitive. So what I do is showing people, your ancestors are asking you to help them. And once you help them, with all the people who've gone through this program and really have seen transformation, the world opens up because they see things on the other side that keep you from that prevent you from making unnecessary mistakes. They help you.
Yes.
You could, and like I tell people, you couldn't get rid of your ancestors and your angels if you tried. They
Right.
you
With you.
can't get rid of them. So why not sit there and acknowledge them? And I talk to mine every day. I have a little makeshift
Yeah.
altar, and I talk to my grandmother every day. I talk to Mama Oya every day, and I said, "Show me, guide me." They're right there.
Right there, waiting to be asked.
Waiting to be
Yeah.
asked.
Yeah.
I speak to my parents
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah.
And I swear I hear them speaking back to me. Just certain, and even like the same voices, that they have.
Yeah.
This is so
Oh yeah. And people are try to explain it away. Oh, I'm just imagining. No, you're not imagining it.
Nope.
right. You're not.
You're not imagining it. But we've been so brainwashed by religion, by society, by the matrix. We've been brainwashed away from ourselves when every other culture has been promoting it. Like I said, on the dollar bill, every time you pick up a dollar bill, you are honoring somebody else's ancestor.
Right.
Every time you look at some of these monuments around you, you are honoring somebody else's ancestor. Okay? But they're not telling you or giving you permission to honor your own. I don't need permission. I've always been a renegade. I've always been my own person. I don't need you to tell me. I know it's real. And I know when I tap into it, the world opens up for me. Just like with my husband, with Fred. Fred talks to me. He used to talk to me a lot when he first crossed over as a red bird. Whenever I would have a problem and I'm be so overwhelmed, the cardinal would show up. He would show up. He would fly over my car. He would fly over the house. He would fly in front of me. And every time he did that, I knew it was going to be okay. And everything worked out. And people used to see him in the house. People who didn't even know him would see him in the house because he was letting people know that he was there to protect me.
Mhm.
And don't mess with my Jamela. I was like, don't mess with her. But yeah. And they didn't know. So I knew it was real because they didn't know what he looked like. They had never met him, and they would describe him to the T.
Jamila, I went down to Jekyll's Island. I think this was 2018. And I went out into the ocean and I was going to swim, and I could not get comfortable. About 200 or 300 yards. We only got a few minutes left, so I'm going to tell the story quick. It's connected with what you were saying. And that was about 3 white boys who were down, and I couldn't relax. And the voices kept coming, Bernard, go down a little bit further, because just in case they want to come and harass you and mess with you. And I was the only African American on the beach, in the water, in the area. I went to a conference. I couldn't relax. I tried to breathe and relax. That didn't work. So I got out, and I was very angry. Anxiety, had an anxiety attack, and I got through it, shared it with my colleagues. Went to Ghana the next year, went through the dungeons, and as you indicated, you feel the presence of the ancestor. A coconut mist hitting me in the head by literally an inch. It fell behind me. And I knew it was the ancestors when we went down to the Ancestral river. I sat down to the Atlantic on that side, and I could feel the rush of the violence after going through the dungeons. I came back to go to this side of the Atlantic, and I realized that what I was experiencing in the water was that transatlantic voyage that many of the ancestors who died in the Atlantic, crossing the Atlantic, thousands, millions, those spirits were like entering me to inform me, this is just a small amount of what you experienced a small amount what we lived through in those months coming over.
Mhm.
I mean, it was so powerful and exhilarating and freeing and anxiety producing. But the voices of the ancestors came to inform me what it was all about. So I wasn't left wondering. But to experience it and to go through it was and remains one of the most tremendous experiences, that I have. My spin teacher, she was playing some African drum beats and in class near the end, and I got lost. And so I was in the rhythm of the beat, because that I went the year to return, so I was watching the drummers beat and the dance. Sudi, I said, Sudi, do you know what you were doing? And she said, oh no, I was just playing because my nephew, he plays these drums. And
was she playing, or
no, she had a recording. She had a recording. And I said, you just called up the African ancestors and some of your ancestors who died don't come across that pond too. She said, really? Is that what was happening? I said, yes. She said, well, we go down to Jekyll's Island and I'm running and I didn't know what I was feeling. And
she said that.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. I mean, so this is very real as you're sharing with us, and very accurate. And I see it every day and work with my clients, and it really came up today in my women's group so much that I went like 30 minutes longer than I normally would, as they were getting in touch with some of the very things that you're talking about.
We are absolutely out of time. You have to come back, Miss Jamela, Professor Jamela.
Honored. Yeah.
I mean, so we can continue this. And anyone who wants to contact you, let's put, Janet, please put Professor Franklin's information up. I mean, I encourage everyone. Now, I did work with you when you were starting to work with the codes, and even that was powerful. So to hear that you've enhanced that and made it more of a African ancestral kind of experience, I look forward to going through that with you. I think he does too. But
absolutely. You know me. I mean, I'm game. Plus, I have someone that I want to send to you, refer to you.
Thank you.
Just text me today, and I saw this person yesterday, and they texted me tonight and said, "Don't forget." So,
oh wow,
this is
perfect.
This is confirmation. So I will give this person your number and email.
Please.
And, they will contact you.
Yeah, please. It was an honor and a privilege. I would love to come back and probably do a demonstration with the pendulum and all that to show you.
Oh, yeah. Good.
Yes. All right.
I look forward to that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you to our guests and listeners and viewers, and thank you to our support team. Janet, you're amazing, and Toya.
We love you, Toya. Thank you so much. It is indeed for the ancestors.
Yeah.
Ashe.
Ashe.
Namaste.
Namaste, Hotel.
All right. Thank you. Have a wonderful evening, everyone.
You as well. Namaste.